Tell me, are you ready to find your weird way? Weird was a concept that was spoken of long ago. It meant fate, it meant destiny, it meant your path in life. I'm your host, Dean Bentley, and I am here to explore how you can connect to your own path in life, to know the essence of your own soul, to connect to that single spark that lives within the deepest recesses of your being that says, this is why I am here, to go beyond the limitations, the constrictions of the modern world, and open you to the possibilities and the potentiality of what is possible within this world. Join me as we dive deep on the weird way. Right now, we are living in a very interesting time on this planet. I've been having a lot of conversations with friends, with clients about this time to be alive where there's so much noise, there's so much happening in the world, and it's intense. If anyone's feeling that, know you're not alone. Know that there is so much intensity within the world right now. So many structures and systems are changing. We're exposed to so much in the world, so much information, so much awareness of the pains, the struggles of humanity right now. And this can be really shoved down our throats, as well as even in the healing space, we can be pathologizing and judging what our parents did, how they grew and taught us, and all these pieces. There's a lot of information out there. And I just want you to know that if you're feeling that, you are not alone. This is happening right now in the world. It's why we need to be discerning about what we're putting in to our system, whether that's these podcasts, information, where we're receiving information from, whether the channel we get it from is something we trust and is in service to us. So, weird ways. I'm going to jump into an episode that I've been trying to articulate for a while now, and I'm hoping that tonight I'm able to create it in a way that does it justice because we're seeing a lot in the world. Things are surfacing that are really uncomfortable. There's a lot of shadow that people are seeing with things like Epstein and all these things that are coming to surface that a lot of people have believed for a while. And I haven't gone a lot down that rabbit hole. But what we're seeing is an emergent of something that's been suppressed within the collective for a long time. And there's aspects here that are inviting us to have a deeper look at ourselves and go into what this is expressing within humanity, the collective, and also on an individual level. So I'm going to speak at this from a couple of different places so we can really open up this container of like what are we being invited into and what systems and structures are falling away that are no longer true so that we can create more balance and more harmony in the world. Because often before the creation of something new, there is the fall. That's a pivotal thing that has happened time and time again in the history of the world and the history of the individual. If you've been on this path for a while now, you probably know that in a time of turmoil where you may feel like you're dying and the world is falling away, that it reveals something that is beginning to be healed or open to a new identity, a new concept of reality, and that's what you're being invited into. And right now that we're facing that in the collective, there's some big shadow structures, I'm going to call it, of the masculine that are being revealed, where suppression, domination, and control have lived at the forefront of the systems of the current reality of the world. This is like what most people are calling the patriarchy. And I'm really careful when I speak to these things because often there can be a big judgment towards the masculine and shaming of the masculine. And that's not what I'm here to do. Because yes, these systems have come predominantly from the masculine, but they're the wounded aspect of the masculine. And this is something we need to remember when we're talking of these things, because it's not the masculine, it's a wounded aspect. It's the unhealed, the unintegrated, the one that is in pain itself. And I say that not to dismiss what is being done or to acknowledge not acknowledge the pain that's caused by this, but to hold compassion as well, that the people that hurt people are also hurt. They're suffering, they're trying to do their best. And that's not okay. What people have done in the name of that is not okay. But also to have this understanding so we don't push it further into the dark. These images, these collective shadows are emerging for us to bring presence, love, understanding, compassion, and healing to. And if we judge them without the healing, well, we're going to push them away and miss our opportunity for a more whole experience of reality. So that's what we're looking at. So, firstly, when we look at these things, what are we seeing? We're seeing a great amount of control, domination, greed. These things are very prevalent within the field right now. And I'm going to go off on a tangent here and wrap it back around. Why is this so? And I called this episode The Seduction of Darkness and the Fall of the Masculine. And let me break this down, and we're going to come back into this in a moment. So, there is a thing that happens within, I'm going to call it the masculine psyche. And no, this can relate to men and women, but I think primarily this is an aspect of men. For a lot of our time, we have sought to know. This is something that comes from the immature identity of men. We're trying to know, and that is a really beautiful aspect. But why is that? Because when we know something, we can control. And the wound of this is I'm not safe. I'm not feeling safe. So if I can know, which is seeking control of the environment, well, then I can be safe. So there's a lot of these structures that are currently trying to know everything. Like we're inundated by information. We have ChatGPT, we have all these information at the tips of our fingertips where we can know anything. We can know it. We have the intellect, we have the knowledge, and we have the means of acquiring any information that we want right now. There's more need to know. And this is what I spoke to earlier of the pathologizing that we're currently living in. Like in the need to know, there's this need to deconstruct ourselves and pathologize who we are. And we can really begin to almost use this as a weapon of attack against ourselves and the current makeup of reality. We're in a culture of, I know, but there's less debate, there's less relationship with that because we've become separated as well. So there's a disconnect between ideas and the expression of them. And instead, we become these islands of knowing. This is the darkness. I call this darkness because there's a real seductive tone to this knowing. It's like, if I can just understand everything, if I can know it all, then I can have control of my reality. Then I can control everything and I can do it right and I can make everything I want to. And you see where I'm going with this. This is the element of control I'm speaking to. And this is what is happening on a collective level. The immature masculine, in its essence, is trying to control the mystery, trying to know it all, because we are have the mystery inside of us. You know, the dark feminine, the seductress, the creatrix, all aspects of the dark feminine that draws us into ourselves. There's a really beautiful aspect of the psyche that asks us to descend into the totality of ourselves. And this is a real drawing down energy that asks us to meet it. And it's the void, it's the creation of everything. This is such a beautiful and powerful energy. And yet there's a trap here for the conditioning that most people in the Western society receive. It's like and a lot of psychology is going this direction where we're looking at pathologizing this and seeing, oh, if you can understand yourself at a really fundamental level, which is important. Like, let me stress this awareness is so important. It is needed, it is necessary. But what we're trying to do is deconstruct the self. We're believing that we are like a machine, and if we can just work out all the kinks, if we can heal that trauma there, understand where our generational trauma, our conditioning come from. If we can understand that enough, then we can be these perfect model citizens or the perfect idea of who we think we should be. This is the element of control. If I can just understand this enough, and understanding is beautiful, but where's it coming from? Under the undercurrent is control. If I can understand this enough, I can control it, and then I can manipulate myself into being the way that I should be. This is not honoring of the feminine aspect, which is the beauty, the creatrix, the flow, the emotionality, the mystery. These are all aspects of the feminine that want to come alive. But when we're trying to control, and this is why we're seeing it in the collective right now, because we're being invited to see it within ourselves. Where are we trying to control? Where are we trying to make ourselves into the box? We're being asked to look at that and understand, hey, why are you trying to control? Because you're trying to know, because you're feeling unsafe. You're wanting to, you know, let go of that and probably play. There's an innocence when the feminine can just play and enjoy, and juvenility to it that is where a lot of the shadow is coming from. The suppression of all these structures is revealing it in the shadow that's being revealed right now in the collective. If you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. But this is why the psyche has these aspects, because it wants to draw us down. And there's a myth of Medusa. I've been talking of myth on the last episode as well of Icarus. If you haven't listened to that, please go do and let me know what you think. But Medusa was a very dark feminine energy. And the story goes that if you were to look into her eyes, you would turn to stone. Now, I like to think that that story is about when you stare into the infinity, infinite depth of creation and the vastness of the void, you freeze. You freeze and you don't know what to do. It's overwhelming. The depth, the wonder, the all of it. It's overwhelming for the system. And we're not meant to be exposed to it directly. It's too intense. It's too intense. And this is what is happening in the pathologizing of so many people. They're staring at the conditioning, the trauma, the environment, and all these factors and trying to solve themselves, trying to fix themselves from this place. If I can just understand this and know this and do this, that then I can fix myself and I'll be okay. But that's the problem. That's the conditioning that's not appropriate, because ultimately it's saying there's something wrong with someone, and that's just not the case. When humans are innately whole, we're innately healed, we're innately beautiful, rich, and abundant. That's part of our nature, and the conditioning would say otherwise. That's what we're looking to hold here, that in our nature we are good, we are whole, we are healed. Yes, we can have wounds and trauma, but it's actually because of the culture that we live in, where we're so disconnected, that these things are growing and expanding and having a disconnect, because we didn't have the capacity to be with them, because we didn't have community and connection and those that could teach us to regulate in a moment of trauma. That's the really extreme thing right now. The more disconnected a society is, the more traumatized it is, because it doesn't have the connection which helps regulate a nervous system. And that is a key element of healing trauma, because when a system is regulated, it allows energy to flow through it. So instead of taking it on and holding it, it has the emotional release. It realizes it's safe because there's connection, and it can relax and go back to a regulated state. That is a slight tangent, but it's necessary so that when we're looking at these structures, we can begin to deconstruct why this is. The Medusa myth tells us that Percival, when he went to kill it, actually, sorry, Perseus. Parsifal is a different myth. I'll probably get to that at one point. Perseus, to kill Medusa, he looks in his shiny shield, the back of it. He's holding it up and he's able to see her reflection. And through that, he knows where to strike his sword. And from this emerges the Pegasus and his own power. And this shows that we're not meant to look directly into the void, into the overwhelming void of infinity. We're not meant to, it's too much for our system. But if we look at the reflection of it, we can actually see into it without getting overwhelmed. So this is about creating some distance from it to see it so we can actually say it. Because what Medusa is embodying isn't the bad aspect, but it could be seen as a conditioning of I'm not good enough, or I need to control myself, or in Jungian psychology, it could be considered the deaf mother archetype, which never believes someone is good enough, and there's a lot of constriction and contortion to them. And in this, the immature masculine is able to develop into the mature masculine, which is able to tend to life. It's able to go beyond the shadow aspects of the feminine, to see beyond the illusion of that, because beneath all angry women is actually a beautiful young girl who wants to be taken care of and supported. You can argue with that, but there's a truth in it. Like, there's a desire from the feminine, from the masculine, but because of the pain that's been caused from the masculine in the millennia of suppression of the feminine, there's a lot of anger and a lot of pain that is unresolved, and it requires work from both men and from women to begin to heal that rift and create something else. So when we see that structure, we can see that the Medusa myth shows us, okay, there's something happening here. That seduction of pathologizing, because there's a victimization that can occur in that. It's very easy to say, I'm the victim. If my family, if society, if all of this created me and I can blame them, then I don't have to take responsibility. But when we slay Medusa, there is a ownership of it, of like, wow, yes, that is all true. It's not to negate any of the trauma or the pain of suffering that occurred in childhood or any situation. It's not to negate that. It's actually to accept that and say, okay, I see that. I see the reflection of that. I see the pain. I see the suffering, and I'm able to look in the mirror and see that, and I get to slay that old story and become something anew. I get to build something that's more powerful, more beautiful, more enriching to the world. Now, on the collective level, this is playing out. We're being asked to see this right now. We're being asked to look in the reflection and see, what are we seeing in the collective that is present within us? How are we seeing the old structures of the shadow masculine, which are seeking control and domination because they want to know the mystery? They want to control life to find safety. Like, that's ultimately what it is. People, men, are feeling unsafe, so they look to create control. They look to create control through financial aid, through power, through domination. And it's, if I have enough power, if I have enough money, well, then I can be secure enough to find safety. That's the program that's looking to run, but it's never enough. So they seek more and more and more. And that contortion that is occurring, that distortion of the field, is causing a lot of the shadow behaviors that's been visible within the world right now. It's manifesting because there's that suppression of the feminine. So in that suppression of the individual feminine, and yet in the suppression, there's also a longing for it. There's a longing for the innocence and playfulness of the juvenile feminine. And that isn't to condone it, it's actually to condemn it, because there's a lot of unintegrated aspects here. But we need to consider why this is occurring. And this comes in from the conditions of culture and society at large. And we're being asked to really analyze that and heal from that, not in a pathologizing way, but to look within ourselves and see how we're still controlling and contorting ourselves and trying to dominate, rather than letting the feminine part of ourselves come online and be enriched by this world and serve at a greater capacity. Because the masculine is here in its mature aspect to tend to the feminine, to steward life on every plane. It's meant to take care of it. And this is the shift that is being asked of us. It's being asked to deconstruct this immature masculine so a new masculine can take rise, something else that is able to create harmony, protection, depth, uh, uh, protection, I said that, but strength and power in a healthy expression. This is new. We're doing this on a systematic level. it's not going to be a pleasant, because to do that, we actually need to look into the shadow. We need to see the things that aren't in alignment with that value. Because without that, there'll just be a dissonance between what we're trying to create and where we are. And any time we're here to create change, we need to see what is occurring right now. And the structures of the systems of the world right now are being revealed in a very intense way that is asking us to be present with it. This isn't to say that it's not intense, that it's not crazy right now, that there's not a lot happening, but it's doing this in service of a deeper truth and a deeper world that can be more beautiful. Right now, we're right in the turmoil in between that is going to take some time to clear because of the suppression and the denial of it for a long time. So there's going to be the emotional undercurrents that are coming in that for the cause to correct. And in that, accountability. That's also one of the things that we're going to be called to do, create accountability for the things that have been hurt within our own lives, where we've hurt others, where we've created pain, because this is a big element that allows healing. And this is one of the hard things to address. And, in the current world, there can be a very much denial of that because we're seeking accountability through a justice system that, again, is part of the system, but it doesn't take into account their individual human emotions that are required to be met and the individual, because justice doesn't always create healing, it can create more pain. So we need to really consider these factors when we're going down this path and acknowledging what is happening on both the individual and collective levels. It's not something simple. It's a very big thing that's being revealed right now. Big energies are happening, and this is so that we can change, that we can move in the direction. It's a realignment and a readjustment because clearly, with what's being revealed, it's not healthy. There's unintegrated and painful parts that need to be addressed. And in that, we get to create a deeper healing. And the first place we can actually do this is by looking at ourselves and seeing where these things are manifest and begin to not diagnose, I do not like that word, begin to attend them and see where presence is called for within ourselves. Because if we do have these aspects playing out, what they are is a call for attention. Like I've explored on this episode, if there's an unsafety within the system and control is being sought by that, well, we can begin to regulate the nervous system and begin to create safety within the system so that overall that person is a healthier and safer person, because safety can only come from within the self. Otherwise, it's a construct that is built outside the self and can't maintain safety. It can be built in community, but ultimately it needs to come back to the self. Outside constructs can support that and they can extend that safety, but firstly, it needs to be built from the inside out. So when we're seeing that control, we can ask ourselves, why am I controlling? And well, you'll be able to do this in any area of your life. Where are you still controlling? And beginning to see, oh, I feel unsafe. Why do you feel unsafe? Or whatever that is for you. What do I need to feel safe? It may be like a lot of unsafety at a core level comes from, I'm going to be rejected. I'm going to be abandoned. Um, I'm going to be alone, abandonment again. And that is both a biological level, because being alone, which has been abandoned or rejected, means that survival is at stake. When we're in a tribal village, survival happens because we're in community. If you're out in the woods by yourself, a lot harder to survive. So biologically, we're wired to belong. If we don't, that's going to create a lot of tension and a lot of stress on our system. So one of the first things is learning how to regulate and accept you do belong. Even if someone rejects you or you feel rejected, that's actually one of your core wounding that is asking for you to bring presence to it and acceptance and be with it. Be with that emotion. Allow it to run through your body. Allow the thoughts to run without attaching to them. We've been able to distance yourself with awareness of saying, hey, is this thought true? Is this process true? And create a distance between you and that thought. So no longer do you have to go into that same old pattern. This creates more space so that then you can begin to be aware of them, be present to them without getting caught in the current of that story and what it's trying to live out. And from this place, you get to build more safety, which allows your system to naturally let go of control. And so instead of trying to control and needing to know everything, you can begin to be curious. And this is one of the things that the shift is really about. So much of the known comes from control. Now, this is one way to get to know, but you can actually engage with the feminine in exploring her infinite depth of ourselves. Because here's the thing, if you're on this path, there's always going to be more. You're going to want to learn more, you've got to grow, there's going to be things that you're exploring and continuing to explore that there's going to be more and more of your depth. It's infinite. There's going to be nowhere that you get. And so there's going to be that invitation to continue to explore. But we're changing the paradigm of like, I'm trying to get somewhere so I can know and control myself to actually coming from a place of like, oh, I'm interested and curious about myself. I can play with this. I can engage with this. And the feminine loves this. She blooms in play. She flourishes when she's able to be engaged with in a way that's not trying to control or contort or limit her expression. When you can play with her, you can open her and open yourself because naturally she's more open. And that means more depth is available, more expression, more joy, more excitement, and more emotionality, which is a lot of what people are seeking. They're seeking the emotions of joy, of bliss. And it's like that happens outside of control. It happens in surrender to oneself, where revealed is a deeper aspect of self. And this is what we're seeking. So it's about that surrendering to the feminine and opening to her and letting yourself engage with her in such a way when naturally there's an energy exchange inside yourself and outside where you can play and be expanded and open to it in such a way that more life is present. And where in that we deconstruct the old paradigms of masculinity and we step into a new paradigm where masculinity gets to be a steward of life, where it gets to be in service to life and create something more beautiful, where it gets to say, hey, I'm in support of life itself, because that's a primary force of it. Whether that's Shiva for Shakti, holding the container so she can be in all of her expression. It's like, and that happens inside. The masculine is here to support the feminine and the feminine to support the masculine. The reciprocation of that is so richly beautiful and so deeply nourishing for both when it's in balance. And that's what we're looking for. The stepping forward of the masculine into a new way of being that allows a different way of life to occur. And this is what we're going to be doing over the next little while. This is going to be a moment of integration and change and transition. And from that place, something else is going to be revealed. And ultimately, that's going to be a new structure of masculinity that can support the feminine in a whole new way and allow more life to bloom and more enrichment of this life. And right now, we're just seeing the destabilisation of the structures that no longer work, that have kept people trapped and limited, so that their new systems and structures can be revealed, and people can also see that the old structures aren't working. Because this may be the first time they're seeing that, and that's needed. They're needing to see the destabilization so that they can see the opening in a different way. So, right now, if you're feeling it, if you're in the chaos, if you're like, what the hell is happening in the world? This is a little bit about it. There's a lot more to unpack here. There's so much in the world, but this just will help give you a bit of guidance of what's occurring on the mythic and energetic levels in the field so you can have some understanding. So hopefully you can be more supported throughout this period and this time and create more opening in the future. If you want to know more, send me a message, share this podcast, let other people know about it. If you've got something useful out of this, if this has landed some pieces, let me know what, and can continue this conversation. Please like, share, and rate this podcast. It's going to help continue to expand this and get this to the people that need it, because a lot of people need this in the world right now. And a lot of people need to receive this message that, hey, a lot of stuff's happening in the world. If you're listening this far, you know, you get it. And we're needing this to create more healing, more connection, and more support. So this is Dean Bentley on The Weird Way, signing out.